pulling out the jacket cause we're turning up the heat. I wanna see you clapping when you get about your seat. It's time to make it happen when we hit these streets. I'm coming in hot and I can't be beat. Watch out now. Everybody watch out. Watch out.
And welcome for episode 60, Pete. We've got to number 60.
Somehow.
Of Agencyphonics. And today we have our very special guest, Mr. Gavin Shinfield from the agency Kyan. He is the Chief or CSO or Chief Sustainability Officer. He's a member of the BEMA Sustainability Council. He's founder of the BEMA B Corp Boot Camp, which is B Corp's a big area, which Pete and I are going to get into a lot today. And he's also a founder of the ESG Collective Networking Group. Many of you listening to the show will have heard or know of Kyan. They are a fantastic agency, and we'll also get a little bit back into the background of the agency as it's grown over the years. But first, let me just say a couple of quick thank yous on this lovely sunny day today. First of all, to the wonderful Forecast, who are the market-leading project management software. We've recently welcomed them into our community as a sponsor. They have been very kind enough to support us. As you know, we run Agencynomics as a not-for-profit social enterprise, and you know, with their sponsorship helps us fund all of these things. You also hear a helicopter going above now. This is really quite funny today because I'm actually working from outside because it is such a hot day. And
our special guest coming in, landing in the garden.
It could be our special being flown in as we speak, or maybe jumping out of the helicopter. That could be dangerous, actually, to helicopter.
No one's arriving by helicopter if we're talking about sustainability today.
That's a very good. I think it's an electric helicopter, actually. I just noticed it was the Tesla version of helicopter. Unfortunately, I live near an Air Force base near here. But anyway, so secondly, for those of you who have been fans of our book, Agencynomics, and the reason really why we do this podcast today, the audio book for the fully revised version has been is finished now. Pete and I have spent the last, how many months, Pete?
Oh God, 6 months.
Since January, I think. Yeah, 6 months in a studio, on and off, basically recording ourselves. This time we had lots of positive feedback, people saying they'd rather heard us speak it than having a professional narrator. I think once they listen to the book, they'll probably think it would be better with a professional narrator, Pete. But I think both Pete and I actually suffered COVID, coughs, colds every time we recorded. I think, you probably sort of hear us with our deep, husky voices, but it's going to be on sale in Amazon, Audible, Apple Books on the audiobook section any day now. And so if you keep checking in, Amazon have told us that it's all been approved. They have a 10-day basically onboarding process. It's the 16th of June today. So I would imagine by the 20th it will be live. So put a note in your diary and go and pick up the new Agencynomics audiobook. And we put some bonus content in, Pete.
Yeah. We it seemed like a good idea at the time. I hope it comes across well. But we're trying to summarize at the end of each chapter with a little story that kind of cements the stuff we've been talking about. So I actually really enjoyed doing that bit. It was quite good fun.
Yeah, so there's some, those of you who read the book, if you want to get the audiobook, you will find that you probably find there's a little bit of extra bonus content in there which might be useful for you. And then lastly, just the last thing to say is that in the last 2 weeks, we have launched our own coin, Agency Coin. You can learn more about it at rally.io, and it's not Rally as in the bicycle company for those of you who grew up in the 70s and 80s. It's rally.io.io/creator/agency. We'll put that into the show notes. And we've tokenized our community. It's not a money-making scheme. It's just more generally about making sure that our community has a stake in our in the community, and we're able to reward by offering benefits, exclusive access to content for people who are holding coin. If you go to that URL, you'll see a list of all the benefits that you can get. And we'll be talking more about that over the coming months, and some of the amazing things you can get access to by holding our agency coin. So let's get to it. Gavin, Pete.
Hi.
Yeah, Gavin, welcome. It's been a long time in the making this.
Yeah, we had a bit of a delay, didn't we? But hey, we made it. We're here now.
Oh yeah, I lost my voice. I couldn't talk.
Well, actually, Spencer, I listened back to Alex Holliman's Agencyphonics called just ahead of this, and you were croaking on that one as well. You're obviously speaking far too much.
Yeah, I think I just got over COVID and I was talking so much that I ended up on different talks that it just eroded. And I think we were about 45 minutes before going live with you. And I just suddenly realized that I probably wouldn't have a voice in the next 45 minutes. So, yeah, those of you who are listening, I'm sorry if we had to reschedule.
I think I had a similar one on our last podcast where I literally messaged Dan halfway through and said, my voice has gone. And he sent me back a motivational reply saying, "No, mate, you're doing really well." And I went, "No, my voice is gone. I can't speak."
It's kind of one of the things you need to have when you do a podcast is a voice,
Absolutely.
I guess. So
Yeah.
So Gavin, tell us.
Yeah, how did it all begin?
How did it all begin? Well, it began some time ago. This year, depending on how you view when we started, we incorporated Kyan actually in November 2002. Although first day of trading was 2nd of Jan 2003.
You must be having a 20th birthday party.
Well, this is the debate, isn't it? Do we have it at the end of this year, or is actually to 2023 our 20th anniversary? And based on we want to make a splash, maybe 23, but there's something nice about it being 22. You know, there's we'll see. Watch this space. We'll let you know, and obviously you'll get an invite if we have a big knees up for that.
Yes.
But yeah, we incorporated. You know, this is start of the millennium. The Y2K bug had failed to materialize. .com bubble just burst for the second time. So yeah, we were.
There's three of you, right? So
three of us, yeah. Myself, Piers Palmer, and Laurent Maguire. So there's always been three equal owners of the business from the start, and to this day, 20 years on, we're still working together. So we're still friends. This is the thing, right? We started as friends. Piers and I have known each other since school. We're since we were 14 years old. We're on the same rugby team together. You know,
went on the same YTS apprenticeship scheme together.
Well, we could get into the work history, but probably not going that far back because
it must have been a couple of years above you at school, though. No.
This is just a useful collection. We did have a job painting gas tanks together in the Surrey Hills.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of
the podcast show of random holiday jobs that everyone's done.
Yeah. Erecting marquees, painting gas tanks, those type of things. Yeah, that's what we did in the summer, right? We needed to make money, so we went and did these things.
That's quite interesting because actually, I'm trying to get my son to go and join up a local firm to do erecting marquees because I think that's quite a good bit of physicality, probably quite a bit of hard work, getting up early, long days. I think must be quite good fun.
And you always do it in good weather. Until the end of the trail end of the season. But you're getting up and you're working in the sunshine. It's a great life. We went down to this. This isn't going to be this podcast isn't about erecting marquees, but yeah, we visited some wonderful places.
Well, no, we need to talk about painting gas tanks as well. So
yeah, we got to leave time for that. But no, after all of those random jobs, the three of us, we found ourselves working somewhat in the media sector. I was running a marketing publishing studio in Godalming, and Piers and Laurent were working together for an events company that also did archaic things like CD-ROM authoring. And I think they were touted as a multimedia agency back in those days. It was like lingo scripting and director and that type of thing. But we were both had elements of our jobs where we were doing small amounts of web work for these companies, and we realized that that's all we wanted to do. So yeah, we quit our jobs. We handed in our notice, said we're going to start a digital agency. which was still relatively novel back in those days, I guess. That it wasn't a general purpose full service agency. It was purely digital, purely web. And we did the wise thing of saying that these small amounts of web work you've got, we can provide that, and at a better rate than you paying us full-time salaries. So actually, for them, it was a win-win, and it meant from day one when we got together, we had an office from day one as well. We thought that was important. So we had what was literally a broom cupboard in a regional offices and shops complex outside of.
I'm like imagining a proper broom cupboard now.
It was a broom cupboard. Like literally, before we moved into it, they had to move the storage that was in there out of it for us to be in there. So we literally did start Kyan in a broom cupboard.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was tiny. No AC. It was also one of the hottest years. We'd say we're tipping 30 degrees right about now. I think it was similar, and you can imagine three young men in a broom cupboard with windows that you could barely open. It was pretty hot stuff.
And computers pushing out all that heat.
Yeah, computers, big CRT monitors that we'd also cobbled together from somewhere. Big aging CRT. 17-inch monitors.
What was your vision back then? Did you have one?
Well, the vision was like I said, it was the definition of a lifestyle business. We just wanted to work purely in digital, and we wanted to do good work. We had and we had these initial connections, and we just started there really, and then it's just working the network to get more bigger, better clients, and that's kind of been the routine through to today. It's the things don't change.
Yeah, and that's funny because I think Pete and I, we used to we worked with a web hosting company called Wildhive for many years. In fact, they supported this show for many years. They've now become part of a much larger organization in global business, and they ran these annual awards called the Wildhives, which again many people listening would have remembered, and it was a way to promote agencies that were outside of London in the UK, to raise awareness of them. And it was funny because, our agency was very, very close to yours. We were also in sort of Surrey, Hampshire border, but I'd never heard of you guys. And then we were at this awards, and then you actually won the awards for the best. I think it was the best agency website, and I think there was also a most respected award that you guys had won. And that's the first time we came on our radar. And it wasn't long after that we'd heard about you, that we came over, and maybe it's probably about 5-6 years ago. And I remember you were above like a shop called Moffat's in the top of Guildford High Street. And so you'd moved out the broom cupboard and you'd moved up to the high street. And it was a lovely office you had, very cool office. But you've come even further from that stage as well. But what I'm trying to say here is, from an early stage, you were clearly still keeping that reputation about doing good work. There's obviously something quite fundamental about your business, because you've always been regarded and highly respected by your peers, and also you've always had high standards about the work you push out. I guess the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think you're right, Spencer. It was for us. It was all about the quality of the work, and we were really putting in the hours, and we were working. It was the three of us doing the work. At those early stages, it quickly grew. By the time we got to Smithbrook, we moved out Smithbrook, which was the first offices, and into those Guildford High Street offices. I guess the team had then grown to about 15, 18 people in the first 5 years. So it was good, strong, steady growth, but it was very much that we were still hands-on, working in the business, only hiring. We were hiring people we knew that were good workers, and the best designers we could find, the best technology people, and because we were working at the coalface, we knew who those people were. So the the quality of the works that spoke for itself, and that's how we got the referrals, and really that's purely how we got our business. And I think before we started working with Cactus, we hadn't really considered a marketing budget. We had a website. We didn't.
I remember you didn't even have account managers, or
we did. Well, no, this was the thing. We've done all of the.
You were just a bunch of really sort of cool creatives and techies doing great work.
Yeah, and the three of us were accounts. We'd done our own branding. We built our own site. We were managing the clients. We were doing the sales. We were doing the payroll. We were doing all of those things, and we just divvied out everything between the three of us, and realized that we got to a stage when the company was 20, 25 people, that wasn't really sustainable.
Yeah. So obviously today Kyan is has come a long way. I mean, I'll say this openly. Pete and I have had the pleasure of going into to many hundreds, possibly. We know we've spoken to over 2,500, and we know that we've been into several hundred agencies over the last 12 years, and maybe even longer, right? Because we used to have a lot of, when we had our agency, we spent a lot of time in our friends and competitors' agencies or frenemies' agencies. And I have to say to this day that right now, without question, you have probably the best agency that we've ever been into, pound for pound. When you look at the holistic overview of everything from the team quality, the culture, the ability to deliver effectively, efficiently and effectively, your branding, the way that that just everything about you. And in fact, we'll come on to the bits around B Corp and everything else as well in a minute. But you have built a wonderful business. So you should be very proud of you, Pete. You'd agree?
I agree. No, I do agree, and I think I would add to that in that you've sustained that over a 20-year period. So there's obviously something inherent in the values of the three of you that you've managed to successfully carry through all that time. In terms of the quality of the work, the output, the culture of the team, those core values. So if you had to put your finger on one thing, what do you think that would be?
That's so kind of both of you to say. Somewhat embarrassing, but really great to hear that back.
It's true. I mean, as I said, it's I know it put you on the spot with it, but it's important to recognize these things when we see them.
Yeah, but the one thing is that we care. We really care about all of those elements. We care about our team. We care about the brand. We care about our and I think that it's the virtuous circle, isn't it? If you look after all of those things, then you will be successful. And I kind of think maybe this is, I'm not sure how. We're moving into what is a sustainable agency, what is a sustainable business, and I think really what we're talking about now was all of those things in harmony is what will create a business that sustains itself into the future, allows for growth and allows for change. It's caring. It's caring about your team. It's caring about where what your clients think about you. Caring about the quality of the work, caring about your perception, and just making sure that you give all of those things equal value, and that will allow you to continue to trade 20, 30 years, however long it is, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. So I think we've established there's no question that you've had strong values from the outset, and clearly those values and behaviours, and your philosophy, let's call it, to your approach to caring about the team and the clients has served you well and built this sustainable agency. At what point did your role change then to move more into that CSO role? Did that happen at the beginning of the journey of you then saying, well, what's next for us in terms of this journey that we're going on around the ethics, the sustainability, the environmental approach, everything combined, that you wanted to make sure that you were kind of encapsulating within your brand?
Yeah, it's as ever, it's an evolutionary tale. I think this is, we were talking about our roles earlier on, the role of the 3 directors earlier on in the business, and the fact that we'd been doing all of the agency functions. And I think it's just a natural evolution that as you grow as a team, you bring on more specialist people to do the roles that you've been running around like a headless chicken trying to do half as well as you might if you've got people properly full-time in those roles. So getting a full-time finance people and building out the client services structure and the project management structure and the overall pod structure. And then my background was always design, usability, front-end coder for a while, but I'm not sure quite where I'd start building a modern website. Probably Webflow or Squarespace, right? These are the options.
The magic's still there, Gav. I can tell you. Dust down those web building skills.
I still like to turn my hand to a bit of graphics, and we always get good comments for our slide decks, don't we, Spencer? So
you do, you
still got the eye, but
never lose it.
We've got brand professionals in, we've got marketing people in, all of the things that I historically would have looked after. We've now got a great creative director in Pete White, doing a lot of the roles that I was doing, running the design.
And I gave Pete his first job, so that's my claim to fame.
You did, but we're talking about hiring great people, and Pete's been a real stalwart, and he's doing fantastic work with the design team and leading them much. And is really wonderful to see. Yeah. But I guess as you pass these roles on, it's like, what is it that really matters to us now as a company? And we'd looked around and looked at things like B Corp certification, and previously when it came to the UK in 2015.
Did you feel that was you were looking for something that would recognize and validate everything that you had done? Or is that?
Yeah, it was much more that, rather than thinking, we should be a B Corp. It was kind of like, we became aware of B Corp and said, look, that reflects our values. That's that could be something that we would really put a lot of effort into. We realized that, but it would be much more meaningful than ISO certifications or investors in people or any of these quite dry certifications that you might want to do if you wanted to talk about how you looked after your team, and your respect for the planet. The B Corp was an outward reflection of our inward values and what we saw we had already done in building a good company.
Most people listening will probably by now have come across B Corp, but if people listening haven't, how would you best kind of describe what B Corp certification gives an organization? Well,
B Corp is a framework for doing business better.
Okay. Sums it up lovely.
Sorry,
it's not a formal structure. It's it is a formal structure. It's basically a process you go through. In fact, why don't you explain to us how do you become B Corp certified?
Okay, so the B Corp certification is like I said, it's a framework, but it's a series of questions that looks at pretty much every part of your business. There are 5 core pillars to it. So governance, how the company is run, the structure, the pay gaps, the stakeholders, how the team is recognized. There's the workers, how you look after your staff, and looking at the team diversity, all of the aspects. Again, pay structure, making sure that everyone's paid the living wage over and above. Then there's the community, how active you are in the community and what work you give back in terms of charitable giving.
So the local community.
Local community, there is quite a strong flavour of of local business, supporting independent businesses over and above that, supporting the local community, local supply chain, local ownership is also something that's rated in B Corp. So and the distribution of your workforce, which is obviously something a bit different now that we're all becoming more of a hybrid workforce and people are working from different areas. Myself in Switzerland, obviously. We can come on to that if we like. But yeah, there's all of the areas. So people think about B Corp. I think they think, oh, it's maybe it is an environmental thing. It's looking after the planet, but it's people, profit, and planet. That's what they refer to as the triple bottom line. So it's those three things in balance.
Yeah. So are you in Switzerland now?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay. I said it feels a bit weird because I saw you earlier this week and I didn't realise you were back in Switzerland. So I
know, and also if you look like this colour in the rented apartment behind me, is actually the same colour as our one of our meeting rooms.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did think that too.
in Guildford. So people are going, oh, I didn't know you were back in the UK. And I was like, not.
Gavin is also head of the agency colour palette, clearly.
So when you sort of first looked at a B Corp, I mean, did you feel overwhelmed because of all of these areas that they were going to ask for you to validate or for them to assess? I mean, what percentage would you say you kind of were doing already, and what percentage did you have to almost go away and look at new processes and maybe new systems? And is that a fair way to ask the question? Is it?
Yeah, totally is. And I come across it time and time again that people look at B Corp and go, this is too big, it's too scary. And
also, isn't it scarier because you're slightly a larger agency, and so therefore you have even more questions? Like the smaller the business, actually, it's a little bit. It's always going to be a challenge, but it's almost harder as you get larger, right?
Well, it's more involved the larger you get,
right?
And it's more involved for different types of business as well. So something to consider is that B Corp was really set up to look at manufacturing businesses. Really, it was the original founding members, people like Patagonia. It was looking at building a better supply chain, saying, we need to look at creating a more of a circular economy. So straight off for companies that are service based, like agencies, it's going to be somewhat easier because you have less external pressures on you to do it. Also, the size of your business, depending on if you're what B Corp terms as a micro business, which is under 15 employees, which is a lot of agencies, right? They're in or around that number.
Yeah.
You guys probably have the stats. I don't know off the top of my head, but a good number of people I meet fall into that category. And if you're a micro business, you have the minimum number of questions, and you'll also be on the fast track for certification. So you may have heard it took us a year in the B Corp queue. So even once we've done the work, we had to wait a year to be verified. And in that time, we could be working on the progress as well. So it wasn't dead time, but it was you hear this gap. But for micro businesses, there's a fast track certification process in place, and I've heard people go through it in 3 months. So when we applied, we were sub 50 people. So we were in the sort of the second bracket of B Corp certification. And just at the point that I was ready to submit, we ticked over from 49 to 51 team members. And I remember I was on the call with my B leader, and she said, "Oh, by the way, is it still 49 employees?" Because we were just going through the checklist prior to my application. And I said, "Oh no, great news! We've tipped over. We've hired 2 new people. We're now the team's 51." She said, "Oh, okay. So you're now in the 50 to 250 bracket. So I was there with my certification, which it needs to be 80 points or more to join it. And as she turned us onto the next level of SME to 200 employees, we dropped 11 points like that with the flick of a switch.
Wow. So, I mean, a question. This is a bit of a stupid question, because for me, it's clear that you've gone through this process as more of a validation of your business processes and ethics, and the values that you've got. But and it sounds like it was easier to do it when you were a bit smaller as a business. Do you wish you'd started it a bit earlier, or do you think you needed to go through a few more challenges in the business to get to a stage where you were really comfortable, doing it?
I think it's about mindset, Pete. And I really wish that we had, when we became aware of it. I think it was actually Piers that introduced it to me in the first instance. Brought it to the discussion at one of our board meetings. So that was back in 2015, which was the first back then. So going back 7 years. So that's when I really wish we had started it then. Because it's it is easier, and you know what, you don't there's no time limit on it. You can make a start. You don't have to, you don't say, oh, we're going to get B Corp done in 3 months. You don't have to do that. Actually, to a degree, I think it's better to take your time, build it into the business, build it into your strategy. Realize why it is you're doing this, and what benefits it's going to have. And I think you can do that, and you can start with the just going through the B impact assessment. You can do the points, do the whole thing, and just benchmark yourself against where you are now as to where you want to get to, if you are going to go for B Corp certification. But even if you're not going to go through B Corp certification, it's a brilliant health checklist for any business, any agency, just to say, how are we looking after our people? What are our policies like? I think, especially in the modern age, I don't know, I hear this more and more, how big a part ESG plays in RFPs these days, or in the due diligence follow at the point that an agency is being appointed. You will be asked all those sticky CSR questions about your team diversity, about your are you measuring your carbon, are you taking account for your carbon footprint, what are your environmental policies. We've had RFPs that were asking about power supply to the office. What do we use renewables? This is not from tree hugger or out there organizations. These are bona fide blue chip people who are really asking all these questions.
We wrote a bit in the. Sorry, Pete.
As I say, that's a good thing that it's coming from the bigger businesses down, rather than the smaller businesses trying to force it up.
Yeah, in our book we did write a small piece on this, and actually we had someone Tina Fegan, who is in procurement, and she actually made the comment that from a procurement perspective it was becoming more and more important, and she had some good data around that with the briefs coming out that actually large organizations were absolutely wanting to see evidence of this from their agencies. And you just mentioned two acronyms there. You said ESG and CSR, and I think one of the things I really wanted us to talk about today was a little bit around the terminology that's used, because for me, the ESG term, environmental, sustainability, and governmental, right?
Environment, social governance.
Oh, well, there you go. Social governance. Okay. So I've seen people use different words on that. So, and then you use CSR, which is the term that I guess Pete and I, we've seen over the years. Everyone had a CSR policy, corporate social responsibility, and a lot of people were often a little bit derogatory of that because they always felt like it was a fudge, like it was a lot of big companies who had this CSR thing up just to kind of show that they were doing good, but it often felt like they were playing lip service. It was a pretense to something, historically. So where, how do you describe this area? Because it does encapsulate, I used the word earlier on, but lots of areas. There is this kind of ethics. There's this, your title, Chief Sustainability. Is sustainability at the heart of everything? Does that define how would you best sort of describe this area today?
It's definitely a hot topic, Spencer. I think there's 100 different terms out there, and not one of them really fits the bill 100%. I quite like ESG because it does do that environmental social governance.
Yeah.
If you play that back to the B Corp stuff, you got your governance, you got your environment, the social responsibility, looking after the community. So ESG, although it has that corporate flavor, because ESG really came from the investment markets, right? That's ESG is where that has come from. And that is now seeing as a replacement for CSR in corporate speak.
Yeah, I just checked. Wikipedia call it environmental, social, and corporate governance.
Okay, well there you go.
In a way, that kind of is quite nice because you have the environmental aspect covered. You obviously then have
ESCG doesn't really roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. And then you have kind of like maybe that more. I mean, is the social part more societal and more about the people, and the governance obviously ensuring that things are done to correct standards and to adhering to codes of conduct, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think that's where ESG sort of smacks of compliance. That's probably one of the things that is against it. But when people talk about sustainability, some people say, look, sustainability, they immediately think about the environment. And tracking back originally, like that's what sustainability meant, right? It meant doing the least harm to nature to ensure that there was resources left for the future. And this was the whole thing about protecting the rainforests and protecting our waterways and all of that good stuff, which is obviously part of what we're talking about today. But sustainability and sustainable business, sustainable growth, as defined by the UN, is talking about the fact that using the same metaphor as the environmental one, but ensuring that you are leaving resources for the future growth and for future people. Let's face it, sustainability should be the minimum, right? So it's kind of not even a goal. Sustainability, no one wants to run an unsustainable business.
I liked it earlier on where you talked about the business that you've created. From the outset, you've made it sustainable. I think that's really, really important, because I think sometimes we often hear stories about businesses that fail. I mean, that's business, but having something that is sustainable for the long term, it's important, right? So
I think that's why I think sustainability is still the term that we need to use for now, right?
Yes.
So once we've got to the point where everyone's thinking along those lines and taking all of these areas into consideration, then we can just call it business. We don't need to call it sustainable business anymore. It is just business, and that's how it should be run. And that's kind of how I think about it. We're not pushing Kyan to be your tech for good partner. We're not only going to work with purpose-driven organizations. We want to work with organizations where we can initiate change, where we can help people on the journey. We can share our learnings and help them get to the point where they're sustainable. We were talking before about sustainability being an add-on, or CSR being an add-on, and I kind of think that's definitely the case. And holding my hand up, I think when we first looked at it, we probably thought the same. We thought, oh, that's a nice to have, but do we really need? We've got other things, we've got other fish to fry right now. We've got our growth to take care of. We've got these plans. We can't let anything get in the way. But this doesn't get in the way. This ensures that you will be doing this into the future. This is that long-term
much
planning.
more pervasive, isn't it, with your business? It's much more, it's much more integrated into everything that you do.
I saw a good thing saying, they're talking about like the pillars of business, that you might talk about, finance, marketing, operations, whatever you might see. These are the areas, these are the pillars of our business, and that sustainability is the fifth pillar. But actually, a better way of thinking about it is sustainability is the foundation that all of those pillars are built on, because it does feed into.
Really like that, don't you, Pete?
Yeah, no, I do, and I was also thinking about that, because I remember us having this conversation in the past, about we've got the growth to think about, and this stuff not getting in the way. But I think it hasn't at all. It's really complemented everything you've done and made sure that things have been done in the right way, which is much more important, I think, in terms of what you all wanted to achieve in terms of where the business has got to today.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the things that you do have. They have small impacts, but the overall impact is massive. You'll write a policy here. I think when we started, when we did the first iteration of the Kyan company handbook, I think like everyone, we took a template. We said, right, these are the areas that we need to fill to have an overarching company handbook. And to be honest, we were stripping loads of stuff out. Like we're low on the governance. We're on low paperwork. We just want we're an operation of trust. But actually, as you grow, you realize that you need those areas for the foundation of a strong business. And I think that's what B Corp does for you, is gives you that really deep, in-depth checklist to make sure that you've got a strong, fit-for-purpose business in all areas of your operations.
So casting,
sorry, go on, Pete.
I was going to say, casting your mind back to, you're on this call with your, is it B Corp? What was the phrase you used? Not assessor.
B leader. B leader. So you're B lab, B leader, B Corp. It's a bit of a confusing minefield. So B Corp is the certification. B lab is the company and the body, and then the people who work for B lab or are certified by them are B leaders. Yeah.
So you're on this call. You now realise you tripped over to 51 people, and you've gone up into the next bracket. And what were the big challenges after to that point to kind of reassess where you were, and the extra work that you needed to do to get to the certification stage?
It was a lot more. After that level, it becomes a lot more. How can I say, sort of evidence based? You're looking at. You have to provide evidence for all of the areas, but there were things that it did a much deeper dive into the governance of the company, anti-corruption policies and methods, sort of next level, governance stuff, but also how you engage with your clients and client satisfaction, rating, measurement, goals. A lot of the things that the B Corp sets is like you set a policy, then you do your measurement, and then you set your goals for improvement, and you get points for each of those sort of steps along the way. So for a company that's just starting out, that doesn't have a lot of policies in place, you will get quickly up. You'll build up quite quickly, but then once once you get towards the end and you're trying to make improvements, then that last little bit to get you over the line to certification can sometimes take a lot longer.
Yeah, agreed. And also, if you're already an established business with all some a lot of these policies in place, what are the challenges in terms of redrafting those policies or amending them and then communicating that to the wider team?
Communication with the team, exactly. All of these things are. It's fine to have these things, but if people don't know about them, then they're worthless.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something. The circulation and team training and team development, personal and professional, is also a big part of it.
Yeah.
Do the team members get anything when an organisation gets certified? Do the team members get any kind of certification as well themselves, or not?
Yeah, everyone gets a badge.
Everyone
Yeah.
they get a badge. And this is the other question.
You get a plaque, which is a bit of sustainable driftwood. I believe it's it's sort of very. It's not a glitzy piece of thing.
Yeah. And here's the other thing: are there other types of certification that are similar to B Corp out there now as well, or is B Corp the only one?
No, there's. It depends on how you look at it. Like B Corp, I think one of the ones that's gaining a lot of
validation around,
Yeah. I was going to say there is a number of ways of looking at that, but probably the one that's gaining a lot of traction right now is called EcoVadis. In fact, I saw that he just raised a good amount of funding, so I expect to see that one coming up more and more in the public consciousness, and that one is as it sounds is somewhat tilted towards environmental performance, but it does look at the other areas that B Corp's looking at in terms of in terms of societal and team impacts as well, and diversity. Yeah. But EcoVadis is definitely one to check out. And I from what I hear, it's in fact I did speak with the team, and it's very evidence driven. Like every question has a single piece of evidence, and you go through that process. Whereas I think the B Corp process is a little bit more holistic. But as I understand it, EcoVadis very well thought of in terms of the procurement community. If you've achieved that sort of checks a lot of the.
We'll get the links into the show notes for that as well, I think.
But overall, I think there's 400 different reporting frameworks.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's things like the World Economic Forum. They have their own version, which is I think it's sustainable capitalism metrics. Again, another real one to trip off the tongue. And some of these sort of there's things like they sort of join other certifications together. So you've got things like the CDP, which is the Carbon Disclosure Program, and the WEF program looks to bring CDP alongside a couple of the other ones to sort of bring them together to become more of a holistic overview in the way that B Corp is. But yeah, that's including all of the ones that are aimed at particular sectors. So not all of those 400 would work for agencies, for example. But yeah, some of them are focused on manufacturing or heavy industries or particular people with particular environmental concerns. But yeah, overall over 400. So there's a big landscape of ESG certification out there, definitely.
I've just seen Ryan O'Keefe make a comment saying from Jago, who are also a B Corp agency, saying,
"All right,
growth. B Corp's grow much faster than the rest of the economy." And I wonder whether there's a chicken or
8 times faster. That's what
he said. Just B Corp's grow faster.
Yeah.
But I think, is that because the mindset of the agency that takes that approach, is got a growth mindset? Maybe I wonder, or is there hard and fast evidence because they're B Corp, they actually, though having those things in place, make them grow quicker? I'm sure it's a bit of both actually in there.
It's always the cause and effect thing is always a little bit hard to say, isn't it?
Having said all of that, though, I think
any company that takes these things into consideration, it's certainly not a limitation to your growth. if anything, it's going to enhance it.
But choosing your suppliers now and suppliers choosing you, I think, you know, if you do share that framework, you would think that there would be, you know, in a way from your point scoring system, I think we talked about the banks, you know, being one of the examples where, you know, certain banks earn you more points than others because they are proven to be maybe, you know, I think I know that Coots have just recently become a B Corp. Is Starling a B Corp? I think, you know, there's some more. There's, you know, what I'm saying is that you might choose your suppliers more carefully if they have got some of these types of validations and certifications and frameworks in place, right?
Yeah, it's definitely true that the B Corps like to work with other B Corps. That's a definite truism.
You share values. You want to have partners where you have the same values, right?
It's a great shortcut to say that, and it's because it is an in-depth process. People know that you're serious about this. You're not. This is not just paying lip service and sticking a badge on your website. This is something that you do care about, and it is an outward reflection of your inner values.
Time has flown by the way. I just can't believe how quick. I mean, we could probably spend a good another hour talking about this. One of the things
have we not got another hour?
I think I might have a hard stop soon, but I think I might really get away with another 15 minutes or so. Pete, what do you think? We'll keep going. Peers and we just peers. But I think what I wanted to get from you though to finish on today was this from Pete and I both have seen the observations around your approaches to measuring and monitoring you know, that you're using, for example, is it but the name's gone out of my head now. I'm live on a show. What's the tool that you're using to track your carbon? You have carbon tracking tools, don't you, in place? Is it
we use so we're using the green element carbon calculator called Compare Your Footprint.
That's right. You're using that to compare the whole team, you know, their carbon their impact. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think what you're talking about there is our friends at Geeky Earth.
That's it. Yeah, Geeky Earth.
Yeah.
You've been over this journey. You've basically you spent a lot of time, I know, researching in depth all of the tools out there to be able to help you validate, you know, your carbon footprint, to validate and to also track and to see how you can be better with your carbon offsetting, right? So I think all I'm trying to say here is I've seen how much time you've invested in that, and not everyone can afford a chief sustainability officer. I mean, I think I've come across about 4 or 5 now in the past 18 months, mostly much larger agencies. I'm not sure a smaller agency could necessarily, you know, be able to have someone dedicated in that role. And so through all of that learning that you've done and the tools that you've got, I think, you know, you have a lot to offer. I know that, you know, Cactus, we've managed to get you now to help us, you know, give up some of your time to help provide consultancy around this area. And I think it's just, you know, making everyone aware, I think, of the investment I've seen you make. It hasn't just happened. You haven't just gone on a couple of websites and figured it all out, right? You've had to benchmark different things. You've had to, I mean, did you get much help when you were going through the process yourself?
I mean, the biggest help is the community. I mean, the whole the B Corp community and the, you know, the Business for Better community generally are so supportive. And when we started our B Corp journey back in 2019, I reached out to our good friend Ryan O'Keefe from Jago, who's on this call at the moment, by the sounds of things. And he gave up his time, came to visit us at the office, said how it had been for them. And, you know, off the back of that, I then started the ESG Collective, which was an area for, you know, agency leaders and digital people. It started off as those people to talk about these things. And so, yeah, it's always been the community helping, but you know, it is if you can afford a consultant. You know, we did use a consultant for a short amount of time. There are a couple of other things out there. There's a great tool being developed by the team at Future Proof.
Okay.
My good friend Tom Wilford is putting that together, and that's a really good structured checklist to help you through something like the B Corp. It helps along the B Corp room, but not limited to it. So there are lots of SaaS tools and free calculators, and you just speak to the community. I totally appreciate that not everyone has the budget that a company the size of Kyan does to address this, but really it shouldn't stop you. And the more you engage your team to help you on the way, the easier that's going to be.
And how are you planning to help other businesses? You obviously, through that journey now of you learning so much about this, you've obviously got a lot of information to help pay it forward to others. I mean, how are you? What approach will you take now? Have you developed your own kind of agency-based framework or something?
To a degree, yeah. I know. I think this is always that thing. If you're looking to find a consultant, you don't necessarily want someone who's just going to stick you on. This is the course. Fill out these things, and you're there. I think we all know that that's not quite how it works. No. But there is definitely different. Every company, every business is different, and you guys know that from the different styles of people you speak to. We all see this. We all experience the same challenges over the years, but they will be different and different in severity to different businesses. And I think it's the same with the challenges facing businesses becoming more sustainable. Some will be already smashing it in the areas of looking after their team, but maybe they've got a client list that doesn't, or they're working in an area where it requires them to use a lot of unsustainable materials. Event space is really difficult. There's a lot of waste in events, right? So there's a load of people already doing it. But I think, as far as I am developing a roadmap that based on the journey that Kyan's been through. But really, it starts with that, setting the mindset and intent and having a vision of what you want to achieve, and then it's around the goal setting and the measurement. And once you start getting those in place, you can then move into the implementation phase and start seeing the benefits. And it's really how quickly you move to that area.
There's a great question just coming from Jana. She said, did all of your team recognize the importance of B Corp for future growth, or did it take some time to convince any? Was it a team approach from the offset? Obviously, we've talked about, the philosophy of your team, about, the ethics around them all, but how were they in relation to B Corp?
I think it's as ever, if you've got a group, you get a group of 50 people together, you're going to have 50 different individual approaches and opinions, right? That's kind of that's the nature of humankind. So there are certainly people that were, wow, that's amazing, I can't believe it, that's a brilliant thing to do, really behind it. And those people we coalesced into something we call the Sustainability Squad. And they are our champions that are leading it forward, and we're communicating it with the wider team members. And then there's other people who are like, B Corp, what? Hey, oh yeah, fine, whatever. We'll move on with that. But it's I think this is one of the benefits of perhaps taking your time and ingraining the ideas into your day-to-day processes. And then as you carry on, you start hearing the terms and the ideas that have been posited to the team come back to you, and that's really gratifying when that happens.
Yeah. And do you feel that you need to have everyone bought in, or does it doesn't really matter? I mean, do you think that I mean, with the people that weren't necessarily bought into it, do you think they still value the fact that Kyan has become B Corp? Or,
it's actually one of the things that we that is part of the ethos is to is to ask the team, is to engage with the team, is to make, give everyone in that who works within the organization to feel like they are a stakeholder that has a voice. So we're actually going through, we're doing a Kyan All Ears at the moment, which is our first annual survey to understand what is driving the team and what is moving them forward in all aspects of what we do. And B Corp and sustainability is obviously features quite highly in there. So I'll be able to next time we speak, Spencer, I'll be able to give you the results and tell you exactly how engaged everyone is on it. There is also something that's
quite fascinating, because I think actually, sometimes there's a feeling for me that you've got to have everyone bought into everything. And the reality is that maybe as you get much larger in a business, it's a lot harder to get that, group buy-in, because some things are just not as important to some as they are to others. So I think it's actually quite interesting to hear you say that and your approach to it, because I know in let's say maybe a smaller agency, it would be very important that everybody takes part, but as you get bigger, you have to sort of almost let go a little bit, don't you? And just accept the fact that, there will be people that do and people that don't. And that's okay. Yeah.
That's okay. Obviously, there will always be a variety of opinions. One thing that you can do, again, this is something that's come from the corporate ESG world, is do a materiality assessment for your business, whereby you ask a series of questions. Again, another large questionnaire, but it's something that will give you in all aspects of diversity, environmental concern, community, being a purpose-driven business. All of these aspects form part of a materiality assessment. But what you will get is you'll get that broad spectrum of focus, where people will be much more engaged in certain areas and less engaged in others, and you'll be able to understand where the focus of your business is, because we're talking about this is a broad aspect of topics, broad set of topics, and within becoming a more sustainable business, you can drive within that materiality assessment to really give you focus on what is important for your business specifically.
Yeah, amazing. So, Gavin, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I genuinely do believe we could talk for another hour. Maybe we'll have to get you back another time to talk even more about maybe in particular some of the things that you've been able to take this journey on to the next step and maybe help other agencies with. I know that we're going to be working with you to create our own agency benchmark around sustainability within agencies, so people can actually be able to go and take a free test with us and see how they score and to benchmark themselves with other agencies, which I'm really excited about that happening. And Pete and I are just really grateful for you giving up some time today, right, Pete?
Yeah, thanks, Gav. Really appreciate it. Great to chat. I think we would love to get you back on.
Thanks very much. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, anytime.
I have visions now that we're going to end the call, Pete, and he's going to sort of jump outside and put his walking boots up and walk up some beautiful mountain with snow on the top in June.
It'll be a swim in the lake this afternoon if I can manage it, Spencer.
Swim in Lake Geneva. What else could you want in life? All right, listen, thanks so much, and hope everyone enjoyed the episode. For episode 60, that is a wrap.